Hey there folks, Blockbuster Beach Bum here, analyzing the films you may or may not have seen on the big screen. Today's topic of discussion, 2014's blockbuster title, or hopefully blockbuster title, Godzilla, directed by Monsters director Gareth Edwards and starring Breaking Bad's Bryan Cranston, Kick-Ass's Aaron Taylor-Johnson, Elizabeth Olsen, Sally Hawkins, Ken Watanabe, Juliette Binoche, and others. The film is about a giant radioactive dinosaur thing that smashes buildings and people have to stop it and allegories happen and yeah, that's probably what's going to happen. But little did you know, Godzilla existed long before then. I'm just saying this to youngsters who think Godzilla is the great new, most original thing ever, because Godzilla is in fact a reboot of Godzilla, the 1954 Japanese sci-fi classic about a giant radioactive dinosaur that has come to destroy Japan, and one scientist must make an impossible decision on whether or not to destroy Godzilla. The film, in my opinion, is one of the best films of the 1950s, and I think is an underappreciated gem, to be honest, especially when you can compare it to other monster movies and such. The film was the first film of a 28-film series that concluded with Godzilla Final Wars. Other American interpretations include the 1998 Roland Emmerich directed Godzilla starring Matthew Broderick, which is not a very good movie. And that is the last time American audiences had a wide exposure of Godzilla. People might have had Godzilla movies, released in limited release, but most people would say they remember Godzilla as that movie with Matthew Broderick and the Velociraptor babies, which is not a very good movie, like I said earlier. The film cost, I believe, $130 million, went on to make maybe more than $300 million worldwide, which is okay. But it had a massive marketing campaign, so it should have done better than what it had done. Now, this year marks the 60th anniversary of this film, and the year we are finally going to get another interpretation of Godzilla. I'm excited for this film, and I think it will be a good movie. Anything I say in the next couple minutes is about its financial success, not its quality as a film. Because I hope that Godzilla gets his respect. I'm wearing this really nice Godzilla t-shirt, by the way. I think Godzilla is a character that needs a new spotlight. We're in an age of, these big, massive blockbusters, and superheroes are dominating the marketplace. And with Pacific Rim breaking even, getting mostly good reviews, I think it's time that Godzilla finally step into the light and get his own massive, 21st century style franchise. Now, in terms of its financial success, it could flop. Now, the film's budget, I believe last time I checked, was $160 million, according to Box Office Mojo. That there have been movies that have been more costly than Godzilla. However, there is still room for concern. Because first off, Pacific Rim was a $200 million film, or about $200 million. They went on to gross a little more than $400 million worldwide, which some of you are saying, why is that a bad thing? Well, studios bank on these movies to make so much money that it's ridiculous. And even though $400 million is more than any of us will ever make, it's still, sometimes it's considered a failure when you have a $200 million project, only makes twice its budget. That's considered a mild success or breaking even. But it's considered enough of a success to the point where Guillermo del Toro and Travis Beacham are writing a treatment for Pacific Rim 2. I hope that happens, by the way. And I think whatever downfalls Pacific Rim had can be played to Godzilla's advantage. I mean, Godzilla has stars, or at least, you have Bryan Cranston. People recognize him for Breaking Bad. Whereas with Pacific Rim, you had Charlie Hunnam from Sons of Anarchy, and Ron Perlman from Sons of Anarchy. Not a lot of that is like, okay, some people will be like, whatever. People mostly saw it for the giant robots fighting giant monsters. I don't think Godzilla will have a problem in terms of star power, because I think there'll be a decent chunk of people who would love to see Bryan Cranston do something post Breaking Bad. So hopefully that will translate into box office dollars. But I think there are some key factors that will be a disadvantage to Godzilla. Number one, it's being released in May, but sandwiched between two superhero franchises. The first superhero franchise it's sandwiched between is The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which will be released the first weekend of May 2014. A week after that, there'll be some other releases, and then a week after that, Godzilla will finally be released to audiences. Amazing Spider-Man 2 will still be fresh in people's minds. Maybe people will check out Godzilla, but I don't anticipate Godzilla will, capture a $100 million weekend. It's almost hard to say if it's going to get like an $80 million weekend. I don't know if it's going to do that well. I hope it does. But I think because Amazing Spider-Man, people will still, see it, because Spider-Man generally does well, even if it's a bad movie. So that's one battle it's up against. It's released on the third weekend of Amazing Spider-Man 2. In addition, the week after, it's up against X-Men Days of Future Past, which according to Fox will be one of its most expensive projects ever, and it's a culmination of the two different X-Men casts from the original trilogy and First Class. People will be curious to see that, and X-Men is a popular enough franchise that it will make a lot of money. Whereas with Godzilla, I think it'll just fall behind just because of X-Men alone. It'll be, oh my god, that'll be horrible. So I think it has those two key pieces that are going against it. At least with Pacific Rim, it had the worldwide market. And I think Godzilla's one key advantage is that this might appeal to foreign audiences. It'll do well in China, it will do well in Japan. China, in fact, the gross of Pacific Rim in China was more than the gross of Pacific Rim in the domestic front, meaning the United States and Canada. Which is incredible. Showing to us that China is a big film market. And its opening week in China, I think, was like $45 million. So I believe that Godzilla does have a lot of factors against it. In addition to that, we have the Godzilla from the 90s. Not everyone likes that movie. Will people see this Godzilla and connect it to the other Godzilla? Because that sometimes happens too. Where audiences will connect a bad memory of something to another thing and they'll just won't see it. So, to me, will Godzilla be a flop? It could be. I think I pointed out some very good reasons why it could be a flop. But I've also pointed out some reasons that will help it. It will help it develop as not only a standalone blockbuster, but a blockbuster franchise. Hopefully we can see, future interpretations of Godzilla's, rogues gallery like King Ghidorah and Mothra. Maybe it won't get that silly, but I anticipate that in the future, Godzilla will get some respect if this movie does well. So all I have to say to that is, be there May 16th or be square. Oh, and if you're wondering about my X-Men review, I'm still working on it. Yeah, it's taking forever to work on this damn thing. It's not like it's going to be, special effects extravaganza or anything like that. It's just I'm writing it. And I have real thoughts. So, in case you were curious,